How you doing, folks? My name is Ronan Kennedy. I'm a career coach and business mentor, and I've asked Vinnie to come on today to tell us a little bit about the work he does. This is an exercise in getting to know a few more people around Ireland, but also an opportunity to network and to link in with professionals. So, Vinnie, could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Ronan. Good to be with you today. Vinnie Lynch is my name, and I'm the partner at Rustle Group, and we specialize really in profitable growth. So for startups, it's very much around, I suppose, learning from the mistakes of others and mistakes we've made ourselves as startup founders. In addition, then for more established SMEs, we help kind of review their lines of business and their approach to the market in terms of growing the business, to put a kind of co-create a profitable execution plan with them. And then the third part, and this is really important, is it's one-thing planning, but helping and supporting on the implementation and making sure that clients are committed to the process of pursuing it. And I think that's really important. So many projects fall by the wayside because people put a plan together, but no one is taking accountability of sponsoring and kind of driving the project. So this is where we help leaders a lot by putting in place methodologies to really help them maintain the forward momentum of testing something in the plan, seeing does it work, tweaking their approach, going again and following through. And you know, any of us who've kind of been through the startup world will know that it's really a game of marginal gains, not dissimilar to Formula One racing or sport, where it's the combination of little marginal gains that deliver the result. So yeah, we're very focused on growth, and as you can tell, we're very positive about that momentum that we can bring. But yeah, at the same time, and one of the things, and you'll know this as well, Ronan, you know when not to help, you know when you can't, and or when there's not, maybe you can, but it's not the best fit. So yeah, we're kind of quick enough to pull that too when we need to, you know.
Great. So where do you think people get stuck when they're looking to grow their business or really improve their team? Is it that accountability piece, or is it knowing the right strategies, or is it getting the timing right? Like, where do they really get stuck?
You know, it can be a combination of things. The first thing I think you need to realize, I suppose, is that for businesses that have established, and I'd look at it based on two scenarios: the startup and the established. But we'll start with the established. Established businesses, 90% of the time, have the answers themselves. So all we do is facilitate pulling them out of the day-to-day trenches or the chaos that is part of their daily lives, and elevating them up to have a time to think about what they need to look at in the business. We come with, I suppose, objectivity. So we're asking questions around what's profitable, what are other companies doing in the space, what makes them unique to deal with. And I'll give you an example. We're dealing with a company recently where they're dealing with the COVID chaos, and they used to rely on the face-to-face mode of doing sales, and now they've gone virtual. And their starting point was to take the slide deck that they used to deliver face-to-face and put it up on Zoom. And we started to question how their success rate, and it wasn't that high. And it turns out that they had a 38-page deck for a 30-minute demo or presentation and a 15-minute Q&A. So they weren't even getting to their Q&A. So just because you were successful doing something in a certain way face-to-face, where you had the time to work out how you'd skip to a slide, or you'd bring them to another point because you're getting that face-to-face feedback, you don't always get that in the virtual kind of environment. So, you know, we were challenging them to really look at what they were doing and to really tailor their approach. But the biggest thing, and this is the biggest thing that they were missing, was their existing buyers, or people that they had sold to, they hadn't been talking to them about, you know, this move to the virtual environment, and what are the challenges as a buyer that you face? And the buyer gave them some really good insights into the challenges the buyers face. They just really struggle buying remotely, and they love to build relationships and work off relationships, and they really struggle doing that virtually. So they ended up tearing their deck apart and bringing it down to a couple of slides with just an overview, and really spending more time in listening mode and sharing with them what it was like for happy customers to have worked with them. So they brought their customer success or their account management team into the sales process early on to let them have this kind of peer-to-peer conversation around what it's like to use a product. So I think the whole mindset of like all those answers were there in front of them,
Yeah.
and we didn't come to the table with them. But you know, it's about asking the right questions to try and understand where the value lies.
So it sounds like providing that environment where you can allow them to kind of come up with the answers that maybe they already know, but they're too much in the weeds of the day-to-day operations of the business to really get to. Maybe asking some questions that they need to ponder over. I suppose in providing that outside feed, that outside perspective of, you know, maybe you should listen to the buyer, to the customer who's struggling with this sort of digital transformation through COVID, right?
Completely. And if you add to that, I suppose, Ronan, the fact that people are now working remotely, so they're not together having the coffee cooler conversations about the conversation that they had with the buyer. So it's trying to even break down those communication gaps. And one of the things we're finding with leaders, and this is probably the most important thing for leaders to do right now, is to create that safe environment for the team to contribute the ideas of the things that they're seeing working, the things that buyers are feeding back to them, the things that are working in meetings, and having that safe environment to discuss those each week. And I would say right now, this kind of digital selling transformation is probably the single most important thing in any business. And they need to devote time. And as a discipline, they need to have, I suppose, a methodology and give it the importance that it deserves. And, you know, this thing about the quarterly planning cycle, those days are gone. Like, we used to talk about quarters and sales. Now the world is changing at the moment every month. So you have to have this weekly discipline. This is a live project. This is the real show. If you're waiting for COVID to finish and for the vaccine to come, you've lost. You know, the time is now. This is the normal. It isn't going to change. And even after the vaccine, you won't be doing the business travel you did before. It's just not going to be needed. And people will have gotten used to essentially fast forwarding 10 years and doing business in a way that technology allows them to do so. So it really is a wake-up time. So that's a lot of what we do is just talk to people about that period, you know?
Yeah, great. So huge adapting to be done in the business world at the moment. And can I ask you, if you're giving some people some tips, like let's say they're watching this, they want 1 or 2 tips for like how to facilitate that meeting with their team. Like if you're going to give a tip to a leader, how can they engage their team to kind of come to the table and not be afraid of coming with some ideas that maybe they're not fully sure if they're good ones or not? Or so either a tip about engagement or maybe a tip about driving growth and pushing forward through this challenging time. Any ideas there?
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say the two hottest tips. So the first one, in terms of getting the people to the table, I think companies would traditionally in sales treat the weekly sales meeting, the pipeline review, as being sacrosanct and you can't miss it. And it's in some companies it happens every 2-3 days, depending on the business they're in. I think you need to create that same level of importance and urgency around the kind of sales process now, and this sales process evaluation based on the feedback you're seeing each week. What are you tweaking? What are you changing? How you're upskilling and training people, and just creating that awareness around the team. So to do that, you need to take some sort of methodology, and the methodology can be created by yourself. There's different methodologies. You and I, Ronan, have dealt with one before, the 4 disciplines of execution, or the 4DX is the short term for it. There's another one Google used called OKRs, which is objectives and key results, and they've used that for 20 years and they've built their business around it. But in essence, what it, you know, regardless of your methodology, if as a sales team you come together and your sales leader, or in a smaller business, the leader of the business comes together each week with a simple agenda of bring one thing to the table that A, you've got feedback on, or B, that you think could work based on what you've seen elsewhere. Simple, that's all. As a team, we will agree and prioritize the ones we're going to try. We're going to go at it for a week and we're going to come back and review. And when we come back and review, we're all tasked with being the next thing. So it's just one thing. And it's these marginal gains, the aggregation, if you like, of these marginal gains, that is the silver bullet that everyone is looking for. In Formula One, you know, races are won in hundredths of a second. 500ths of a second is the difference between first and fourth. You're not on the podium. So they're always looking for these marginal gains. They're looking for quicker pit stops. They're looking for, you know, quicker cars. They're looking for slimmer drivers, you know, more alert. They're looking for better technology. The whole thing is geared towards these marginal gains. And I think for sales teams, is looking for those marginal gains of improvement to deliver the value. If you go further, Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, if you go further with Google, what Google do is they take that exact kind of process, be it 40X or OKR in their case, and they apply that across all their business units and divisions. So now the whole company is geared towards improvement, improvement, improvement in a marginal way. And you can imagine the culture that creates in terms of possibilities and the momentum for expecting more and being plugged into almost like, or wired into a culture where it's all about performance. And it's all about just one thing each week.
Yeah, super. And that's how they become Google, right? That continuous performance mindset and continuously looking for the marginal gains. Yeah. So Vinnie, can I ask you, what's up next for you in this time of COVID or in this business development track that you're on?
Yeah, so we've had a good 6 months. You know, it's been interesting. Some of the clients we're working with were okay before COVID and have been battening down the hatches and pivoting and trying to work their way through it. Others, you know, one client we're working with in the digital health space have a fantastic solution, and we're just launching mid-March when COVID struck. So all the stuff that they were working on for a period of time was interrupted, if you like, or stalled. But they've reinvented themselves in terms of the way they've positioned the offer, and they're getting huge engagement through, you know, these remote working teams and trying to engage the remote workforce. Another company in the food space pivoting, another one in the construction services space who are really growing. Actually, they're bucking the trend. They're going through a massive growth phase because they're very aligned to data centers, and data centers, a bit like what we're on today. We're on a Zoom, and you know, the hosting of Zooms around the world is driving data center growth, online selling, etc. So there's some exciting things happening. And then next week, we're doing a webinar with Technology University in Dublin. So TU Dublin and Enterprise Ireland have this fantastic program. It's a graduate program called the International Selling Program. I did it myself in 2010, and it's essentially the spine of what any business needs to drive international growth. So there's an alumni event next week, and we've opened it up to non-alumni as well. And it's on the 21st of July, and there's details on my LinkedIn page. But it's interesting because it's going to really focus on giving people that hour away from their business to rise up from the trenches and share some stories and some examples, like leveraging customer success teams to help you win your customer or win your sale or drive your sale forward, and other practical examples of tools that we see people using that are differentiating themselves, making a difference, but most importantly, helping them with the methodology of how they could create this safe haven for contributions in their business and maintain a momentum with it on a week-by-week basis. So that's a webinar. It's for an hour next Tuesday. So we're looking forward to that.
What's the price of admission, Vinnie, for anyone who wants to join online?
Free, Ronan, free. It's limited to 500 seats, and we're just over halfway. So we've less than a week to go. So it will fill up probably by the end of the week. But
that's great. So we'll put a link just below this video so people can click and sign up there. So that's super. Tips, tools, techniques, strategies, and methodologies to help drive sales growth in a time of COVID. Absolutely fantastic. And if people wanted to reach out to you and get in touch, or maybe find out a little bit more about what you guys are doing, what's the best thing? What would you advise?
Yeah, listen, you know, we're always interested in talking to people around growth. So people are interested in growing or pivoting, happy to have a conversation. Sometimes it's tricky because of projects we're working on, but we will get around to it. So Vinnie at russellgroup.com will get me, and my LinkedIn is linkedin.com/Vinnie Lynch. So you'll see that here in the link as well. So yeah, happy to speak to people and
reach out to you, have a chat, and see if you guys can work together, help each other out, or even just to touch base and to expand the network, right?
You know what, exactly, expand the network. And even if we can't help out, we might be able to point them in the direction of someone who can, which I think is the key to, you know, the network. And even what you're doing, Ronan, it's a great way to, particularly now, you know, we're all looking for interesting content and good ideas. And it's a great way just to push the network out and have people understanding who's behind the picture on LinkedIn or who's behind the content on LinkedIn and what do they do. So I commend you for that, Ronan. It's a nice way to kind of bring across good content.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So yeah, new ways to network and to innovate and to pivot in this strange time we find ourselves in. So Vinnie, thanks so much for coming on to and chatting about what you do and how you can add value to people's businesses and lives. And we'll put all the links in the description below.
Thanks, Ronan. Appreciate it.